and it makes it nice and smooth. The next thing that I did as I was, I also want to tell you, as you're carving away your clay, every little sliver of piece of clay that you have, put it in your slip bowl. And then, you know, we'll get it wet, and then you can reclaim it later on. And we'll wedge it so that we can use it again for something else. Because it is very, very pricey.
Very precious.
It's very, very precious, and we've learned to love this clay. After you've scored around here, you need to also score right here. And, you know, you're probably getting used to all this, you know, attachment. But I want to just make sure that you realize how important it is to score first, and then add your slip. I like to call it glue, clay glue. And then
it's like I'm working with chocolate mousse, milk chocolate, and you're using semi-sweet dark chocolate.
Yes. This might be easier to put on with a paintbrush. Just kind of paint it on there. And I know that nobody's going to really see these holes, but it's always nice to have nice, everything even nice and clean and beautiful.
And the tea is going to be going through them.
Yeah, that beautiful tea that we're going to be getting. Okay, and then you just kind of put it on where you want it and go. That's right, just kind of get it tapped on there. And I just want to make sure that it's at the right level. Oh my gosh, that's like totally perfect.
Because you're not going to trim any more off your spout. Your spout is angled at the angle you want. Perfect.
And then you're just going to take your finger and your tools, whatever kind of tools you like to use, and just start putting your spout on until you're happy with how it's attached.
I would imagine there's a chance you could add a little tiny bit of extra clay if you felt necessary.
Absolutely.
Especially to smooth the transition between the spout and the body.
Yeah, and then if you need to do any more additional carving away, I actually use this tool and just carved and carved and carved until I got the shape, the basic shape. I still have some more work to do on it.
Okay, well we'll see it when it's finished, and then the next step would be the handles.
Yay!
Okay.
Okay. Well, good morning, students. We worked quite a bit into the night, and then we took a day off because, you know, it was Sunday, day of rest. And I put on my spout. I actually, Ms. Taylor, she carved her whole spout out before she attached it, but I'm the kind of person that has to put it on and then carve it out. So it depends on what you want to do. But and then also, one of the things that you need to check about before you put your handle on is when you tip your teapot, will your top fall off? And mine seems to be doing pretty good. So I'm not going to put the additive feature that Allian puts on where it holds the teapot lid, and we'll talk about that. Maybe Ms. Taylor would do that. So what I did is I decided that I've been looking at a bunch of pictures, and I kind of like this sort of shape, but of course this is way too big. I'm going to carve it. But I kind of was playing with the shape, and I you know, was like working with how I wanted it, and then I put it at I sliced it at an angle so that it would fit, and I'm thinking about doing this sort of a shape for the handle, and then I'll carve it down. And then I got a block of clay here ready for, you know, maybe how I might want to do something for the knob, but I don't exactly know what I'm going to do. So this is up to you as an artist, how you want to do this part. It's the creative artistic part. And so I'm going to just let you do your thing, and we'll show you how ours ended up after we finish putting them together. And remember to score and slip everything as you're attaching. Okay? Well, hi you guys. It's been 2 days since we last talked to you, but this is the point of departure when you get to actually play with your own teapot and how you want to decorate it. And we'll show you mine, and then soon we'll show you Ms. Taylor's and talk a little bit about our pieces. But before you're finished, remember the way we created this teapot is it almost creates a vacuum. When you pour the tea out, it needs a place for the air to escape. So what you need to do is take a drill tool like this, and when you put your hand, and be careful because, you know, your pot, you don't want to be sitting there pouring it or touching it too much because your teapot is really fragile right now.
And you would absolutely never, ever pick it up by the handle.
You would never pick it up by the handle.
Until it's fired.
But you want to see where it's comfortable for your hand, and where you would be putting your thumb Maybe you want to make the hole in the middle or right here. But what you're going to do is you're going to create a hole, and you just use this side here, and you just stick it in, and you just keep drilling and drilling and drilling until you go all the way through. And I've already done it. And then the hole will go through, and it'll create a little escape valve for the air, so that the water can come out without being stuck. And also, one of the things that we're not going to go over, because by now you already understand it, but I'm starting to create my teacup. It's not finished. But when I'm making my teacup, I want to make sure that it kind of goes with the whole feeling of the teapot. It was too high, and Ms. Taylor told me that it would be more aesthetically pleasing if I trimmed it down. And so I made the foot exactly the same way as we did the teapot. It's exactly the same way as making the body of the teapot, except for I opened it up a little bit and made it, and I put it against my lips to make sure that it was comfortable for me to drink out of. So what we would like to do is, after you finish watching how to do this, we would like to do a little critique. And a critique is something that we all do as Art 2 students and above, and it's talking about your art. And when we say a critique, it's called a criticism. And criticism is not criticizing your work, but talking about how you grew as an artist, what this piece means to you. And so we're going to go into the living room together and talk about our pieces and the experience we had and what this piece means to us. And you'll be doing this as well. So we'll see you in the living room. Well, hello you guys. We had a really wonderful day. Today we went to the beach, and we celebrated our 10-year anniversary from being friends. We met 10 years ago, and we said to ourselves, I wonder what we're going to be doing in the next 10 years. But this 10th year anniversary we mark by making Yi-Xing teapots, and they're basically finished here, and we're very excited about them and what they mean. And so what we want to do is, Lucy was just so excited about the way she was speaking about how she grew as an artist doing this teapot. I just thought it would be nice for you guys to hear our rendition of how we feel about our artwork. And then, of course, when we become rich and famous and we're in galleries and museums, we can't speak for our teapots anymore, so they'll have to speak for themselves. But until then, you know, we'd like to tell a little bit about how we felt and how we grew as artists. So, do you want to start?
Yeah, I just want to say that I've made a lot of things out of clay, but this has been a very unique experience, and I think it has to do with a lot of things. Like the clay came from China. I've never worked with clay that was dug in China.
Me neither.
And I never really thought about where the clay was dug, but I'm sure it was in the United States somewhere, definitely not Chinese clay. And then we used the traditional Chinese tools and the traditional Chinese methods. And if you think back to MiZ RiVKA's introduction to Yixing teapots, they've been making Yixing teapots out of Yixing clay with these methods basically for 600 years. So as we worked with the clay and the tools and the traditional methods, I started to get a sense of how beautiful the construction methods really are, and how they have evolved to make these teapots so simply with hand forming techniques, no potter's wheel, no molds or anything like that. And then I started to feel a sense of the tradition, and I started to feel a part of the tradition.
Yes.
So MiZ RiVKA and I have totally fallen in love with our teapots. And we don't know if anyone else can see them quite the way we see them, but we really love them. So they're very different from each other, but they're very much an expression of each of us as artists. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about mine. It's a very simple form, in one sense, and I've got very simple decorations. The Yixing teapot decoration style usually has something to do with nature. So I just chose a very simple nature form. And also, my teapot may not be exactly like the Yixing teapots that you'll see on the internet, because I know MiZ RiVKA is going to show you lots of pictures. But I was influenced by Lian, and his aren't exactly traditional Yixing. They are much more simple in form. So I sort of have a mixture here. The elements of nature that I've added are Yixing inspired. The body and the forming methods and the clay, all Yixing. The size is a Yixing teapot, very small compared to what we think of as teapots. But the simplicity of form that I've left here, that I created and left here, are inspired by Lian.
Well, tell them a little bit about your acorn and why you chose an acorn.
Well, I chose an acorn because I was thinking about this analogy that inside a tiny seed is the whole plant ready to emerge if it's put in fertile ground. So I chose an acorn because I love the form of an acorn, but also because in this tiny acorn is all the material needed to grow a gigantic sheltering oak tree.
It's in the proper soil and the proper lighting and proper growth. And that's,
so it's all about potential,
yes,
and possibilities.
And my teapot is also about potential and possibilities. I took the Yi-Xing idea and built it, and of course it's not as beautiful, I suppose, as Ms.
And she really needs to stop saying that it's not
Taylor.
as beautiful.
Well, you know, yours is so amazing.
It's different.
Yes, it's different. Mine's more of who I am. But what I did is I used the whole experience in creating the piece and experiencing each step, and I never have made a teapot like this. I always just form it however, and it's just like always abstract. So this is the first time I've ever done something trying to make it symmetrical and making it perfect. And I didn't like the egg shape when I was finished, so I chose to do something a little bit more for the lid here. I needed something to break up that egg shape, so that's how it wraps around, and it's this heart here. And the writing around here symbolizes what happened to me. So this week, being here this week and working on these teapots, it took a whole week about to do it. And while we were working, we were enjoying our vacation and stuff. And the things that happened to me this week in my growth as a human being is also put into this teapot. So it was based on Yi-Xing ideas and based on that whole building technique. But then, as an American artist, I just used it as a jumping board into my own feelings. And so around here, it says that the journey for peace leads to your heart. And so, of course, me and my, hippie ways, I'm into peace and love and stuff. And then experience the peace is something that I have also learned this weekend about being peaceful and not being uptight about doubting myself, trusting myself. And then on the other side, of course, it says savor the peace. And so even though you have peace, you just need to just enjoy life for every moment. So that's kind of the symbolism behind my teapot that I'm most excited. The most exciting thing about this is that I can't wait to fire it and then have my first cup of tea out of it. I think it's going to be just an amazing experience, and I'm so glad that we went to that conference and had the opportunity to study under really, really amazing teapot artists that have studied under the traditions of, over 500 years. And I feel honored to be able to use this clay, and for you guys to have the opportunity to be able to use this clay. I think that you're going to see what we feel. It almost feels like it has its own embodiment now. It's not just a teapot, it's everything that we are, I think.
And I was thinking about how, if they think back to the teapots we showed them at the beginning of the video by Richard Notkin.
Oh, yes.
When we used the teapot to make a political statement, but we've used our teapots to make spiritual statements.
Yep. And so
a teapot is more than just a teapot.
It's more than just serving a cup of tea. Well, is there anything else that you want to share with them before they have to just jump and dive into it themselves?
I think they should just savor the experience.
Yay! All right, well, that's about it, you guys. And so I hope that you have a wonderful experience making your teapots, and afterwards we'll have a tea party.